Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending upon where you live around the world. We're back again after a cursory look at what I had been doing and a slight alteration. Now this may be another dead end, but it may be, well, it's a better approach than it was before. Just to recap, what I'd done before is angled these planes via the fact that I aligned them with the corner or the intersection or the division on the circumference of the circles that I use at 90 degrees to each other. Because originally, well, we have a line that always seems to be consistent between those 2 points to create the top triangle, the lid, the squished pyramid, and then we ignore that for the rest of them. And I thought, well, no, what happens if we have the line there and angle the radius, the distance out to that point where these intersect. So it's not this point right here, it's just the radius would be back here, in here somewhere on the plane. Did that, wound up with this version, unsatisfactory. Functional? Of course it is. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to draw in the circle that scribes itself through the 45 degree angle and rotate it, because that would, as we know, alters the points where the bottom strut for the leg is generated and the intersection point here. So I got rid of the planes. Actually, I might just undo that for a moment. Note the little discrepancy there. That comes about by having this rotated through to the 45 and scribing the ray, the porcupine, from the center out so that it bisects that section of the circumference or the division of that line. That way it pushes this point uphill a little bit, but this one more uphill than the previous one. What it winds up having is it makes the wider strut here, which much more pleasing, and it more normalizes the shapes of the hexagon. This is a much more squat version than this version, and between all six faces this is much more similar. You love my grammar there. The advantage of this is that we don't need these lines. We only need these ones, generated off an unrotated circle. That, to me, is more elegant. Knowing how to get here, of course, requires a little bit of progression through the logic, but once we've got that, it's relatively straightforward. So if I draw a guide through this angle here, or perhaps a line through there, might be better, because the guide doesn't want to generate, which is its want sometimes, and then make the guide come down to this point. When this line, this guide line, penetrates the surfaces that I create, it shows the length of, well, in fact, the length of that strut. Additionally, rather than creating the square base to create that intersection point, which was always different from what we had here, and it will be when we lift it up, but this point here on a circle remains consistent for where we want to drop that point here, or use that point here. Let me show you. So line straight down to there, intersects with that point, which is jolly good, comes straight up, inferencing it to that height, drawing across. There's my plane. Make a group, rotate it around 90 degrees. Oops, 90 degrees. That's the strut length that we require. Excuse my croaky voice. Hide and hide. Make that the group that we want. Now all we have to do is draw the hexagon. 1, 2, 3. I'm missing something there. Line to there. Okay. So now I'll just save these, so bear with me. They're grouped and coloured. I did that. I paused the video there just so that it didn't have you waiting in eager anticipation. I'll just group these. Make a group. Move it across, and this is this one here. It's identical. Well, it should be. If it's not, I've done something wrong. So I think to achieve a flush in plane side using geometry, I've come across one solution, or one version, and I think it's a particularly good one. Whereas before I was thinking that there wasn't anything via the geometry without fudging it to create that geometry, I now rescind that comment. It's a damn sight better than this for that property, for that feature of more normalizing the hexagon segments. The strut issue is resolved as a result of that, and it's all done very easily via, I'll get rid of those lines. They were created when I couldn't complete the surface, simply by that. So rather than having all the different rays, as which you need when you create the full size dome, the complete hemisphere, or the full the full dome, you can achieve it simply by using the four segmented arc on the sides and the bottom. Don't even need it for the bottom really, and then have this one where you subdivide that section there in half. Seems at least reasonable that it achieves an end goal. And by curiosity's sake, just for this one, 3804, it's not a huge difference there, but of course when we make the shorter version, if we were to follow that logic of trying to keep these the same, we would have to move this, and everything alters. It may or may not be better. I somehow doubt it. And anyway, what length do we require for this height of the leg to be anyway? It's a jolly good question. I actually did a quick drawing, not based on this method. here and I scaled it to this point here, where this is the dome taken from our original exploration of this similar approach, and then the short leg I scaled the whole drawing, and yeah, it's not too bad, but again the disparate surface shapes there, not pleasing at all. Okay, so that was the length of video that I like to try and keep to, the 10-minute or so. At some stage someone will let me know whether they're too, or even at 10 minutes, they're too long, or not long enough if you want to have more step through. We may even get to the point where, if say, look, can we step through a little bit slower, because I have noted in some tutorial videos that the assumption that we all are at the same level is obviously wrong, can create problems for people following, and they would prefer a more step-by-step procedure. I think listening to me doing that while we're going through the exploration of this approach would be excessively torturous. So at this stage we'll leave it in the format that it is and carry on from there. So I'm a little bit happier with this version. Might do a little bit of exploration of it with the shorter leg and see how we go. Rightio, that's it this time. I'll see you again next time. Bye.